Every time you speak, people are making a decision about you. Can I trust this person? Should I listen to them? Are they confident or are they uncertain? And here's the thing, most people don't realize. It's not what you say that makes people trust you. It's how you say it. You could have the best ideas in the room. You could be the one with the most experience. But if you speak with weak habits, people won't take you seriously. They'll talk over you. They'll assume you're not confident even if you are. I had to learn this the hard way because when I first started creating content, I had valuable things to say. I had real experience building real businesses. But when I spoke, people didn't listen. Not because I didn't know what I was talking about, but because of how I was delivering it. And I had these small speaking habits I didn't even realize I had. Habits that seemed very unimportant to me, but they were screaming, I'm uncertain, to everyone watching. And the moment I identified and I fixed these habits, I started seeing significant change immediately. People started listening to me, they started trusting me, and they started buying from me. And I went from someone that was invisible to building a platform of over 800,000 followers in just a year. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 speaking habits that make you look weak even when you're not. I'm going to show you exactly how to fix each one. And these aren't generic tips like make eye contact or smile more. These are specific tactical changes you can make today that will immediately change how people perceive you when you speak. And if you ever felt like people don't take you seriously, if you ever felt talked over in meetings, if you ever felt like you're not being heard even when you have something valuable to say, this video is for you. So let's get right into it. The first habit that's making you look weak is shrinking your voice. Most people, when they are nervous or uncertain about something, they unconsciously lower their volume. They will start a sentence strong, then their voice trails off at the end. They speak so quietly that people have to ask them to repeat themselves. And every time this happens, you're signaling to everyone around you that you don't think your words are important enough to be heard clearly. Confident people speak at a consistent volume that assumes people want to hear them. They're not loud, they're not aggressive, they're just very, very clear and projected. When you shrink your voice, your body will follow. You start to hunch, you make yourself physically smaller, your shoulders roll forward, you avoid eye contact, and it becomes this cycle where your quiet voice creates weak body language, which makes you feel less confident, which makes your voice even quieter. I did this for months when I first started creating content. I would speak quietly because I wasn't confident. I thought if I spoke softly, people wouldn't judge me as harshly. But the opposite happened. People noticed the lack of confidence more than anything else. But the moment I started speaking at full volume, like what I was saying actually mattered, people started taking me seriously. Not because my content improved, but because my delivery changed. Speak at a volume where someone 10 feet away from you could comfortably hear you. This isn't about being loud in quiet spaces. It's about not being quiet in normal spaces. Your default speaking voice should be very clear, projected, and easy to hear without people having to strain. And here's how you practice this. Record yourself in a normal conversation. If you have to turn up the volume to hear yourself clearly on the recording, you're speaking too quietly. Say one sentence at your normal volume. Then say the same sentence like you're speaking to someone across a room, not yelling, just projecting. And that second volume should become your new baseline. When you speak at full volume consistently, your entire presence changes. Your posture improves because you can't project your voice while hunched over. Your confidence improves because you're taking up space. And people start listening because you sound like someone who has something important to say. So stop shrinking your voice. Speak like what you're saying actually matters. Because if you don't believe your words are worth hearing clearly, why should anyone else? Now, the second habit that's killing your credibility is upspeak. When your voice goes up at the end of sentences, like you're asking a questions, even when you're making a statement. This one habit undermines everything you say because it makes you sound like you're seeking approval or validation, even when you're just stating facts. So I need you to listen to the difference. I think this strategy works versus I think this strategy works. Same words, completely different impact. When your voice goes up at the end of a statement, you're turning it into a question. You're saying, is this okay? Do you agree? Am I right? Even if your words are confident, your inflection is asking for permission. And here's why this is so damaging. Because people subconsciously register this as uncertainty. Even if they don't consciously notice your upspeak, their brain is interpreting your rising inflection as doubt, which means they start doubting you too. And I used to do this constantly, especially when I was explaining my pricing or pitching my program. And you guys know what happened? People would immediately just question everything. They would start to negotiate with me. They would push back. But the moment I changed my inflection, the moment I started making statements with my voice going down at the end, like a period, people stopped questioning me. Not because I changed the wording or what I was actually saying, but because I changed how I was delivering it. So here's the fix. Practice dropping your voice pitch on the last word of every statement. Your voice should go down, not up. Period. Not question mark. And here's how you practice these. Read these sentences out loud and exaggerate the downward inflection. This is the solution. I know this works. Here's what we need to do. Your voice should drop on solution, works, and do. Now, record yourself speaking for 2 minutes talking about anything and listen back to that specifically for Upspeak. Mark every instance where your voice went up on a statement and you'll probably be surprised of how often you actually do it. Then for 1 week, I want you to consciously drop your voice at the end of statements. It's going to feel very weird at first and it might even feel a little bit of aggressive, but that's just because you're not used to it, and what feels aggressive to you sounds very confident to everyone else. Now, obviously, questions should go up. It should have a rising inflection, but statements, declarations, commands, all of these should go down. Master your inflection and you'll immediately sound more authoritative, even if everything else about your speaking stays the same. The third habit that's making you invisible is waiting for permission to speak. And I need to be very, very clear here. This is not about rudely interrupting people. This is about understanding that in professional settings, in business conversation, in networking environments, there isn't always a perfect pause. If you wait for complete silence before you ever speak up, you'll never get your turn. And many people, especially women, especially from certain cultures, are taught to wait for their turn. Don't interrupt, let others finish, be polite. And these are all, of course, good values in personal relationship. But in business, in meetings, in negotiation, the turn often never comes, and the people who wait for permission to speak, they just get overlooked on, even when they have the most valuable things to say. Because trust me, I've watched this happen to myself over and over again. I would be in meetings or at networking events and I would have all of these ideas, I would have solutions, I would have valuable input, but I would wait for someone to ask me, and trust me, they never did. So the people who actually spoke up, even if their ideas weren't as good as mine, they got the attention. There are natural entry points into conversation. They're not complete silence, but they're breath moments. Someone finishes a thought and takes a breath. Someone pauses to think. That's when you can actually step in. And here's how you do it without being rude. You use a bridge phrase like, can I add something here? What makes this not rude is 3 things. You're adding value, you're not changing the subject. You're acknowledging what was just said before adding your point. And third, you are reading the room. Is this a break brainstorm session where ideas are flowing? Then you can jump in. Is this someone presenting something formal? Then wait for the natural break. In your next meeting or group conversation, watch for natural breath pauses, not complete silence, just when someone pauses to think or take a breath. That's your moment. And start in low stakes environment. Practice with your friends. Practice in casual team calls. Build the muscle of respectfully taking conversational space, because people start seeing you as a leader, not just a participant. And they start valuing your input more because you're confident enough to share it without waiting to be called on. And you will go from someone being in the room to someone who shapes the whole conversation. You're not interrupting people every 30 seconds, but when you have something valuable to say, you don't sit quietly hoping someone will give you permission to speak. You respectfully take the floor. Now, the fourth habit that's weakening your message is filling every silence with words. And most people are terrified of silence when they speak, so they rush from point to point, filling every gap with or just more words. But this actually dilutes your message because important points get buried in the constant stream of just talking and talking. Confident speakers, they do the opposite. They use silence strategically. They pause before important points to build anticipation. They pause after important points to let them land. Silence creates weight. When you pause before saying something, people lean in. Their brain registers, pay attention, something important is coming. And when you pause after saying something important, you give people time to absorb it. You let it sink instead of immediately moving to the next thing. The silence makes the words more memorable. And I was someone that used to rush through my content because silence felt very awkward. When I was filming videos, I would go from point to point to point without any breathing room. And what happened? People would watch, but they wouldn't remember anything what I said. The information was there, but it didn't land. And the moment I started using strategic pauses, everything changed. My watch time increased. People started commenting on specific points, which meant they were actually absorbing the words that I was saying. And I started getting messages saying, "You seem so confident and powerful in your videos." Same information, the only difference was just the pauses that I increased. So here's the technique. Before an important point, pause for 2 full seconds. Let the previous thought finish landing. Let me show you the difference. After trying 10 different strategies, here's what actually worked: consistency over perfection. And also, you need to what? Versus after trying 10 different strategies, here's what actually worked: consistency over perfection. Can you feel the difference? The second version just makes that point memorable. And here's how you can practice this. In your next video or presentation, mark in your script where you'll pause. Like literally the word pause so you don't forget. Then practice holding that silence for 2 full seconds. It's going to feel longer than it is, but that's okay. And here's what you need to understand. The discomfort you feel in the silence is the exact mechanism that makes it work. If it feels uncomfortable to you, it means it's creating tension for the audience. And that tension is what makes them gonna pay attention to you. So stop filling every gap with words. Use silence like a tool. Pause before important points. Pause after important points, and let your words breathe. And the fifth habit that's killing your credibility is moving when you should be still. Most people do the opposite of what they should do with their body when they speak. When they're nervous, which is exactly when they need to appear confident, they fidget more. They sway, they touch their face, they adjust their clothes, they shift their weight from foot to foot. And all of this movement dilutes your message because your audience doesn't know where to focus. Are they focusing on your words or your hands or your pacing or the fact that you just touch your hair for the 5th time? Stillness focuses all attention on what you're saying. When you're making an important point, stop moving. plant your feet, keep your hands still, or make one deliberate gesture. Movement during key moment signals nervousness or uncertainty, but stillness signals control. It makes people trust you more. And I didn't realize I was doing this until I watched my early videos back. I was constantly moving, adjusting my hair, shifting my position, moving my hands around without any purpose. And it made me look very uncertain, even when I was saying confident things. So I started practicing stillness during key points. When I was making an important statement, I would plant my feet shoulder width apart. I would keep my hands either at my side or clasped in front of me. Or I would make one intentional gesture and then be still. I would maintain direct eye contact with the camera and I would hold that stillness until the point was fully delivered. And trust me, the change was immediate. People started using words like powerful or authority when they were describing me. Not because my words changed, but because my body language matched my words. So here's how you practice this. Film yourself speaking about anything for 2 minutes, then watch it back without sound. Just absorb your body. Where do you fidget? Where do you sway? When do you touch your face or your hair? When do you shift your weight? Now, identify your nervous tells because everyone has them. Mine was always touching my hair. Yours might be adjusting your clothes or shifting your weight or playing with a pen or something. Now, practice delivering one key sentence while standing completely still. It's going to feel very unnatural at first. You're going to want to move. Don't. When you train yourself to be still during important moments, your entire presence changes. You look more grounded, more certain. You look like someone who has authority. Movement between points is fine, but when you're delivering something that matters, be completely still. Let your words carry the weight without your body distracting from them. And here's what I want you to take from this. The problem isn't your ideas, it's the habits around how you speak. Rushing, over-explaining, apologizing for your own words, filling every silence, softening statements that don't need to be softened. Those habits slowly take power away from your voice. So don't try fixing everything at once, just notice them, because that's where authority actually starts. Not louder, not more, but being very clear and certain and intentional. If this was useful, like the video and subscribe to my channel. And remember, your words already have a weight. Your job is to stop weakening them. I'll see you in the next one.